Ready for a deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something pretty fundamental to, well, pretty much everything.
Ooh, sounds intriguing. What are we diving into?
Curiosity. That spark that makes us, I don't know, makes us want to figure things out, makes us want to understand the world around us,
Yeah, totally. Like that drive to learn and explore.
Exactly. And because we're going to see if we can figure out how to think more like scientists do in our everyday lives. And our guide for this.
Don't tell me, let me guess. A super complicated research paper.
Nope. A 6th grade science textbook.
Whoa, going back to the basics, huh?
Right. But you know what? Sometimes the most familiar things can hold, like hidden gems of knowledge. You just got to look for them.
Okay, I'm game. Let's see what this textbook has to offer.
Perfect. So one of the things that stood out to me right away is this idea that, well, science is kind of everywhere.
That's true. I mean, it's not just in labs or textbooks, right?
Okay. Think about it. Have you ever, wondered why your dal boiled over on the stove?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or, I don't know, wondered how a tiny seed turns into this massive tree.
Yeah, exactly. Those everyday moments, they're full of, scientific wonder if you really stop and think about it.
I never thought of it that way, but you're right.
And, the book, it compares science to, a giant jigsaw puzzle.
A jigsaw puzzle? How so?
You find one piece, and then suddenly you see the whole picture differently. And then, of course, you want to find the next piece.
Oh, I see. It's like each discovery changes our understanding and leads to even more questions.
Exactly. And this puzzle, it doesn't have, a set number of pieces. Every time we learn something new, the puzzle grows even bigger.
Wow, that's a cool way to think about it.
And you know how we go about finding those puzzle pieces?
Well, I'm assuming the textbook probably talks about the scientific method.
You got it. And they use this example that I think we can all relate to. It's about, a pen that just stops working.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there, struggling with a stubborn pen.
Right. So the first step is just noticing that, hey, the pen's not writing.
Observation. It's like the starting point of any investigation, right?
Yep. And that leads to a question. Why isn't this pen working?
Which then, I guess, makes us try to come up with possible explanations.
Exactly. And that's where we make a hypothesis, or an educated guess.
So in the case of the pen, I'd probably guess that it's out of ink.
Makes sense. But how do we know for sure?
Well, we got to test that hypothesis. Maybe open the pen and check the ink cartridge.
Right. That's the experiment part. And based on what you find, you might have to adjust your thinking.
Totally. What if you open the pen and the ink cartridge is full?
Then it's back to the drawing board, right? Got to come up with a new explanation.
Maybe the ink's dried up or the tip is blocked. Who knows?
It's like being a detective for these everyday problems.
That's actually a fun way to look at it.
And here's the cool part. The textbook says that anyone who uses this method, even without realizing it, is thinking like a scientist.
Really? So it's not just limited to scientists in labs?
Nope. They give examples of a bike mechanic, an electrician, even someone cooking.
So we're all kind of scientists in our own way.
Exactly. It's just a way of approaching problems and, figuring things out. And you know what else the book emphasizes? The power of collaboration.
Like asking for help when you get stuck.
Exactly. Sometimes, a fresh perspective can make all the difference. It's like having more puzzle pieces to work with.
Okay, so we've seen how that scientific method helps with, everyday stuff. But what about those big why questions? The kind of things humans have been pondering forever.
Why do stars even shine? Or how did life actually, begin on Earth?
Right, those huge questions. And the textbook, it actually encourages us to take that scientific mindset and apply it to those big wonders of the natural world.
So, thinking about the variety of life on Earth. Everything from a little ant to a giant whale, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Every single species, it's got its own way of, surviving, its own way of interacting with the environment. It's pretty mind-blowing when you really consider it.
So it's like each species is another piece of that puzzle we talked about, right? And figuring out how they all connect helps us understand life on our planet.
Yeah. And the book, it wants us to, zoom in even closer to really look at those transformations we see around us all the time.
Like a tiny seed becoming a plant.
Oh.
Or a caterpillar, turning into a butterfly.
Yeah. It's those things, those everyday miracles that often hold some pretty amazing scientific insights.
And the textbook, it doesn't stop there. It wants us to think about the materials that make up our world, too.
Like the food we eat, the water we drink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even the air we breathe, they all have a story to tell if we look at them, through that scientific lens.
Imagine the journey of a single grain of rice. from the field to your plate.
There's biology, chemistry, even physics and engineering involved, right?
Right. It shows how much we've learned about the natural world and how much we use that knowledge, even in something as simple as eating.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? Like, where does our food come from? How is it grown? What kind of impact does it have on the environment? All these questions a scientifically minded person might ask.
Yeah. And that's what the textbook really pushes, that desire to understand, to know why things are the way they are.
It's like, look beyond what you see on the surface. Think about the how and the why.
Exactly. It's like, have you ever wondered why water freezes when it's cold? Or how if those weather patterns, why does it rain? Why do we have seasons?
And science can help answer those questions, right? And when we understand those things, we appreciate the world even more.
For sure. And the book, it doesn't just want us to explore our backyard. It wants us to look up.
Up at the sky, like the sun, the moon, the stars.
Exactly. It wants us to think about the vastness of space, to broaden our horizons and think about the universe.
So it's like, okay, you've explored your backyard. Now it's time to explore the cosmos.
Yeah. And it's a good reminder that science, it's not about, reaching a final destination. It's about the journey.
It's about those questions we ask, the observations we make, those experiments we try. They all bring us a little closer to understanding, well, our place in this universe.
And the cool thing is you don't need a fancy lab or a degree to go on this journey.
Right. The tools are all around us, just like with that 6th grade textbook. The key is to, nurture that curiosity.
That desire to learn, to figure things out. It's what makes us human, right?
Yeah. And, this whole journey, it's not always about finding clear-cut answers. Sometimes it's about being okay with, not knowing everything.
It's about embracing the unknown and being open to, changing our minds as we learn more.
It's like that textbook's whispering, keep asking those why questions.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get a simple answer.
Right. The journey itself, the process of exploring and figuring things out, that's valuable too.
I like that. And, the book puts it pretty simply. It says, to be a wise person, you got to be a wise person. Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful statement, huh? It's about having that mindset of always wanting to understand more, to keep learning.
And that applies to, everything, not just science. What why questions are on your mind right now? What are you curious about?
It's like, what mysteries are you eager to unravel? What sparks that sense of wonder in you?
It's kind of wild, right? Like we started with the 6th grade science textbook.
And look at all the places we've gone, all those big ideas about curiosity and, how we explore the world.
I know. This deep dive has really, it's reminded me how powerful it is to look at the world with a curious mind.
It's like we've reconnected with something we maybe forgot we had, that natural curiosity we all had as kids.
Totally. It's easy to get caught up in, adulting and forget to, tap into that sense of wonder.
And this deep dive, it's been a great reminder that the scientific method, it's not just for scientists in labs, right?
Not at all. It's like a framework we can use for, pretty much anything, for exploring anything we're curious about.
And the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't require having all the answers right away.
Sometimes you ask a question and instead of getting an answer, you end up with 10 more questions.
Exactly. And that's okay. The journey, that's where the real fun is.
It's about being comfortable with, not knowing everything and being open to changing your mind as you learn more.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on curiosity, on the scientific method, we want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay. I'm all ears.
What if we all tried to be a little more scientifically curious in our daily lives?
Yeah.
What if we were more observant, more willing to, ask why when we see something interesting?
And more open to, trying different things, to experimenting a bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's like instead of just watching things happen, we become active participants. We become, explorers in our own lives.
Ooh, I like that. It's like we're constantly learning and growing and, figuring things out as we go.
And think of the possibilities. If we embrace that scientific method, not just as a tool, but as a way of being, a way of looking at the world.
It could change how we, face challenges, how we connect with people, how we experience everything around us.
That's a pretty powerful idea, right? So as we finish up, remember to keep that spark of curiosity alive.
Embrace your inner scientist. Ask those why questions and, never stop exploring. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.